So, any other recollections from Jason? I'm.
Oh man, we talked for so long because we did like Metallica and then we did the Slayer too. So
okay. You did the 87 Slayer or the 91 Slayer?
The 91 Slayer, because
okay.
that was when he met Lombardo.
Now, was that the one where Attica opened, or did Attica open in 87?
No, Attica opened in 91.
91. Okay, I remember that. I remember there being a local act, and then was it Testament?
Testament opened.
Okay, and then who was on the bill with Slayer in 87?
W.A.S.P, I think it was. I think actually Slayer opened for W.A.S.P.
Okay, so that would have been spring of 87. I wouldn't have been here yet. So when you think about a school year, I would have gotten here early September 87. So anything that happened prior to that, I may have seen the show back where I grew up. Because I saw a lot of shows. I saw, Megadeth in a club. I saw, Anthrax in a club. I see a lot of that. Overkill. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, I wouldn't have been here for that one. So the one Slayer show I did work was the 91 show.
So Jason tells the story of going to the show and meeting Dave Lombardo, but he also tells the story of the Attica opening, and Jason was playing in a local band at the time, and the name is escaping me. It was a battle of the bands
to get that opening
gig, and his band lost to Attica. He claims it was rigged.
Right.
But Attica won, but he was saying afterwards it actually worked out for him. There was some silver lining because he already had his all-access backstage pass that he got through the record label.
Okay.
And so he got to hang around backstage, and that was when he met Dave Lombardo. But he said Attica they got it bad.
Yeah. The rumor was Slayer was bad to opening acts like that, just treatment bad. And then a Slayer crowd wants to hear nothing but Slayer, right? So there's that aspect as well. And there are infamous stories around that. First of all, I thank, that upperclassman who got me the security gig. I mean, because all these memories, it was great and I needed the money to eat. But Keith Becky from Northeast Concerts, he'd booked the shows there. He got me in to see, the Ramones at Saratoga Winters, just kind of like you said, the connections. He knew me from working the field house or whatever, and got me to see some shows at Saratoga Winters or other places that he had booked. So anyway, that's interesting that Jason didn't get the opening spot, but he didn't need it because he already had the access. And then he probably, in hindsight, this band probably would have gotten mistreated as well.
Yes.
On stage opening for Slayer. But to say you shared the stage with Slayer, regardless.
Sure, but then he became friends with Dave Lombardo that night, lifelong friends. And then he said he became friends with, I asked him, I said, what could have just created that instant sort of like friendship?
Right.
And he's like, I don't know, probably just drums. And he said, then he got tickets to go Madison Square Garden, like all access.
Wow.
Backstage when they did the Clash of the Titans tour. It was Slayer, Megadeth, Testament, and I guess it was Alice in Chains, right?
Right.
At the time.
Yep. Early Alice in Chains. Yep.
But Troy, New York, when Jason Bittner became friends with Dave Lombardo, formerly of Slayer, but then of Slayer. It's just kind of a funny moment. Of course, it's here where that kind of...
And you wonder, too, like, does talent recognize talent? You know what I mean? Like, did he say, because obviously Jason's a world-class drummer. And even when I have metalhead friends that I grew up with that are in different parts of the country. And, when he was in Overkill, and I'm like, that guy's from the 518, just, hometown pride when you see someone of that talent on worldwide stages. Now, doing festivals with Shadows Fall or whatever. So, yeah, I'm a fan of his. And yeah, it'd be interesting to hear that he had... had an off night in Troy, with Metallica.
he just thought it was not as good as the
not
next
as good
night.
as
Okay. Actually, he may have used the word sucked.
Okay. Well, the other thing too was interesting. Having grown up in southeastern Massachusetts, in New England area, I used to go see a lot of shows at the arena in Providence, Rhode Island. But sometimes bands wouldn't play Providence; they'd play Worcester. Okay, and Worcester's western outside of Boston a little bit, and it was like 45 minutes from where I grew up. But at the time, Worcester, Mass had some sort of provision where they couldn't do pyro indoors. So a band, someone like Dio or Maiden or even like the Metallica, I'm wondering how if it was Worcester, was their pyro different? Because we'd want them to see at the Providence Civic Center where they could have a full-blown show, Whereas at Worcester, they had to scale it back for fire code or whatever it was in Massachusetts at the time. So it was interesting that he said that. But like I said, he's he could probably tell me that, Kirk's guitar was out of tune for half a song. I wouldn't have picked it up. He's a Berkeley College of Music guy. I'm just a scumbag 19-year-old kid that was into metal. So it's all good.
Cool.
Good time. Well, listen, I appreciate you dedicating time to this epic show.
Yes, I'm really, and I would love to, because I know we're running out of time, but I'd love to come back and do, talk about the Slayer show or talk about any of the other shows that you remember, because I'm just kind of like getting stuff down. I know we spent a lot of time on this one, but.
So it may not be in your wheelhouse, but the first rap show I ever saw live was 1987. The Def Jam tour hit Troy, New York, and it was the last date on the tour. And Public Enemy was the opening act. So they were the first rap group I ever saw perform live, because they jumped on stage first. And then it was Eric B. and Rakim and Houdini. And then an 18-year-old LL Cool J headlined the show. And this is at Fieldhouse. And in 1987, we had a blizzard, October 4th, 1987 here in Troy. And lost power. It was a big wet thing. So when this show happened, there were still snowbanks up at the Fieldhouse. And I remember in the parking lot when LL Cool J's tour bus was rolling out, them calling for security to go outside because fans were lobbing snowballs at the thing. But I do remember I was on the side of the stage, and I was up on the permanent seats up on the side, and there was security at the stage. And LL Cool J had a part in his performance. He had a song called "I Need Love." And they would wheel a couch out, and he would simulate sex on this couch, okay, while he's doing the song. And girls were losing their mind. And this girl came down out of my section, ran across the stage to attack LL Cool J as he was humping this couch, not J.D. Vance style on this couch. And one of my other guys who's working security just, like a fullback, ran across the stage and just took her out before she got to LL. And I just remember that distinctly. But that was, seeing that live, that whole show kind of opened my love for, different genre of music. But there were a lot of great shows at the Fieldhouse. But that wrestling one too was pretty epic. But Metallica though.
That was it.
Yep. Long live Metallica.